let's get into seeing the control flow statements in R. And the most simplest control flow statement is using if. Now, the statement, if I want to use if, it works with this syntax. If I would say a, a Boolean expression, this Boolean expression, then I would say expression. That is, if the Boolean expression evaluates to true, the expression is evaluated. If it is not, it will not execute. Once again, if the Boolean expression evaluates to true, the expression is evaluated. If not, it will not. That is, if I would say if 2 greater than 3 and I say false, since 2 is not greater than 3, it will not execute. On the other hand, if I say if 3 greater than 2, then display true. It will tell me it is true because 3 is greater than true. See, for expressions like this, where we do not alter the program state by evaluating the expression, there isn't much of an effect in evaluating the if expression. Now, if at all we say, for example, are assigning to a variable, there will be an effect, which we will see immediately after this. Expressions like these, what we have done in the end, where we do not alter the program state by evaluating the expression, there isn't much of an effect in evaluating the if expression. Now, if at all we say, for example, are assigning to a variable, there definitely will be an effect. That is, if I say my x, which I take as a variable, is something which is foo, and then I use the if statement. I say if, let me say 2 greater than 3. Then, and I say if 2 is greater than 3, what will be x? Let me say x is bar. And then when I call back x, see what it says. It says it is foo. Why? Because 2 is not greater than 3. Similar to this, one more small thing we can do, then you can write this together. I say if, let me say 3 greater than 2, which we know 3 is greater than 2. This x, assign this a variable, let me say a value of bus, and I call x, it will tell me it is bus.
Okay.
Okay, now if at all say you want to have the effects for both true and false expressions in one single statement, you have to use else, if else. That means if I say if, let me say 2 greater than 3. If 2 greater than 3, display, let me say bar. Else I'll say display bus. So since 2 is not greater than 3, it will display bus.
I'm going to say that we can continue. I think we know about if, then, and else. So
Oh,
yeah, yeah, yeah. Please continue with. I mean, of course, you're going to pop something up that I have never seen before. So
oh,
continue. But
thank you. That's really wonderful since you know if and this, it's great. Now, kindly tell me one thing. Say if you want new lines in if statement, whether you have an else part or not, what should you use? That is, if you want new lines in if, whether you have this else which as part of this or not, what should you be using?
I'm gonna guess the squirrely bracket,
Very
squiggle
correct.
bracket.
Bang on, sir. Very, very correct. It is, you have to use the curly brackets. That is, if I say if, let me say 2 greater than 3, I will use the curly bracket. I'll say X, which is, let me give it a value of bar. And then I would say close my curly brackets. I would say else. What I need to do, give X the value of, let me say, uh, quix, quix, QUX, and then I call my variable X. It is quix because 2 is not greater than 3.
Yeah, thank
Okay.
you.
Now I shall request you one thing. Kindly create a function that contains a body that isn't vectorized. So your function won't be either. So if you have a if statement that depends on your input, and if it doesn't depend on the output, it is, I would say, rather useless. Then that input shouldn't be a vector. I said, I know it is little bit confusing. Say, I requested you if you can write a function that uses if statement. And the catch is, if your function contains a body that isn't vectorized, your function won't be either. So if you have an if statement that depends on your input, and if it doesn't depend on the input, it is rather just useless, then that input shouldn't be a vector. That is, what did I mean by this? Let me say I take a variable as maybe square. This basically is nothing but a function of X, and I shall use the curly braces, use a if. I'll say if this X percentage 2, this is 0, then what you need to do, raise X to the power 2, else just give me X. And now if I call for this variable, I say maybe square of numbers from 1 to 5. Please see what it will give. It will give you an warning message and an error. See, this says error if this X is 2, or else this thing X raised to the power 2 else X. This condition has length 1. This function was supposed to actually square even numbers, and it will if we give it a single number. But what we did, we gave it a vector. Now since the first value in this vector, the only one that the if statement looked at was number 1, and it decided that this X percentage 2 is equal to 0 was false. That is, it was if this X with the index value of 1 is 1, and then none of the values were squared. Clearly not what we wanted, and the warning was unwarranted. So what I would request your intervention is, say if you want a vectorized function, what will you use? For the same thing, maybe square, I want to use a vectorized function. What should I be using? Since all of you are from programming background, definitely you should be knowing this. Help me, please.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
I said if I want a vectorized function, what should I use? Here I use this if it doesn't give me the answer. So if I want a vectorized function, that is, I want, this is a vectorized function. I want numbers from 1 to 5, but I'm not getting the output. What should I be using if I want a vectorized function? I have to use if else. That is, we say maybe
What?
square. This is function of this x, and my curly brace, I say if else this x percentage 2, this is 0. I would say x raised to the power 2, and uh, give me this variable x. Now close this, close my curly brace. Then I say maybe square of numbers from 1 to 5. I get my output. In fact, what came to my mind just now was, instead of this if else, there is something else which you can use in R. Can anybody help me, please? At least those of you who have done R earlier, can you tell me what is that I can use other than if else?
Is there a ternary operator in R?
No, madam, it is vectorize. I can use
Yeah.
vectorize function.
Now,
I
could
can.
we, I think that I don't know if I don't know. I don't think I got this right, but I'm thinking of using like the vector. Well, okay, did we put these numbers into a vector? We didn't, but say we could, yeah, so they're in X, and we use the indices, so X square bracket, X percent 2 equals 0, close square bracket. And
Why
then
square
we can
brackets, sir?
say
Why
that,
square bracket?
right, because I'm trying to do this for only for mod 0, 2 mod 0.
Okay.
So
Okay.
try and only square the value. Uh, I don't know. No, this shouldn't work either. Yeah, it should. Oh. Yeah, no, I need to try it. Excuse me for, I'm thinking out,
Yeah, please,
I don't
please,
think I
sir,
got it.
please.
Could you use a switch statement?
No, madam, you can use a vectorize function, which I shall show after this. After you're comfortable with this, I shall show you how do you use the vectorize function.
So, okay, so no square brackets. I don't need to use indices here, but to get the true false vector in parentheses, I will put X mod 2 mod 0, and then multiply that by X squared. But then I'll add in parentheses X 2 mod 1, or X 2 modular 2 equals 1, multiply that just by X, giving
Yeah,
me the
you have,
other elements.
yes, sir, you have, in fact, within the parenthesis, you have written your own formula, how you customized it. Anything you can do. I have taken a very simple example.
What?
Okay, can we go ahead, please?
Let me just give I'm putting my solution in the chat just for so somebody can comment on it. I'll just say I know there's a lot of problems with that, but I just offer it for the sake of the discussion.
That function works great, Bill.
Let me know, please, when you're done and we can go ahead.
Yeah, let's go ahead. I think
Yeah.
we've given enough
Thank you.
people time.
Thank you, sir. I said instead of this if else, you can even use the vectorize function. But I shall subsequently tell you how important this vectorize function is. See, this vectorize function we will use to translate a function that isn't vectorized into one that is vectorized. That is, I shall say maybe a square. This basically is a function of this x, then curly brace, then I say if this x percentage 2, this is 0, I would say have this x as x raised to the power 2, else I'll say just x. Now here I would say this maybe square. I will use the vectorize function. This vectorize of this maybe square. And let me say I want values. I take values from 1 to 5. So I say maybe square of indices from 1 to 5 here. This function, friends, this vectorize function is very powerful function in R. It is what is called as a functor. Functor. I'll write it here. It is functor. Functor. This functor, it means a function that takes a function as input and returns a new function. For so as of now you can remember that this vectorize will take your function that can only take single values as input and then create a function that handles an entire vector by calling your function with each element. So you only see one element at a time, and this vectorize function makes sure that you can handle an entire vector one element at a time. That's all what this vectorize does. This is in R called as a functor. That is a function that takes a function as input and returns a new function. It is a very powerful feature in R, and definitely we will see this as we go ahead. And in any case, all these things were not as part of your syllabus, but I felt it is essential that you know this.
I've never seen that. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you. Here this vectorize is with V capital.
Mhm. I would vote to move on. Or,
Okay,
well, yeah, we still have
okay,
some time.
thank you. Thank you. So can you tell me how will you loop over elements in a vector? I want to loop over elements in a vector. What should I be using?
Depends what you mean by loop, but I'm guessing you're talking about a for loop.
Yes, madam, it's for loop. So can you use a for loop and find out the sum of elements of first five numbers using a for loop? Please use a for loop and find the sum of first five numbers. Now, see, as with this if statements, if you want the body to contain more than one expression, then you need to put it in curly brackets. See, this for statement runs through the elements of a vector. Now, if you want the indices instead, what you will do, you can use the sequence underscore along function. That is seq underscore along function, which given a vector as input returns a vector of indices. How do we do that? The same problem, summation of first five numbers. I shall say x's from 1 to 5 and I say total. This is 0. Now I use a simple for loop. So I'll say for index in seq underscore along of this variable x uh, close and curly brace. I shall say element. This will be nothing but the x of the index value, and I shall also say the total will be nothing but this will be total plus element and close my curly brace. Now when I call back my total, I get the same output of 15.
That's clear.
Yup. Okay. Thank you. I shall request you one thing. Can you use a while statement for looping? That is to find the summation of first five numbers. Use a while statement. Can you do it yourself, please? Using a while statement, find the sum of first five numbers. Sorry. This while statement which we have used, it repeats as long as the expression is true. Great. Can you please write the same thing? That is to find the sum of first 5 numbers using a repeat statement. Because as all of us know, this repeat statement loops until you explicitly exit, which will be using the break statement. This is a hint. So you kindly use repeat because it needs to loop until you explicitly exit using the break statement. What shall we do for this? We shall say see, like I said, we have to use this break. This repeat statement loops till you exit using the break statement. So we have used this break at the end. That's why it has exited that, this break.
Thank you.